Now, the next block down here is where the actual variables are being updated. So notice up until this point, we use a variable, we use an AOI block that basically transmits to the sign, and it's restarting the sign. But we can actually write directly to the variables without restarting the sign, and it's more easier on the sign as far as memory and things like that. But now we need to actually create ladder logic for those variables. And so this is the ladder logic here, and I don't really need to go into a great amount of detail, but I have basically a good part, bad part counter, and I'm adding those together, and then what we're doing is we're calculating an OEE score, and then we have to format these numbers because these are real numbers, and we need to basically convert that from dint to string, so we have to actually write it to this sign 01 variable 1 value as a string format. So in this case we have, here's the total parts string, bad parts string value, and then the same thing for the cycle time counter. We have a real time count. We've got numbers here that we're calculating. I'm using a mid string function block to extract only 5 characters, and then we copy that because once it's in a string format, we write that to variable 3, and then our OEE score is the same way. We basically have a calculated OEE score. We convert it from real to string. And notice we've got the really long decimal number there, so that's what this mid function does, is it just only grabs the first 5 characters, which would be the decimal point, the 3/8, and then it rounds off all the other strings there. And then once we have it in string format, we copy it into the sign variable 4 value. And then this one here actually does the update. So every 1 second, it toggles this timer goes done, which right here, update sign timer. And then while that function is enabled, it sort of latches itself here, and then once it's written, then it unlatches itself. And so this one here is the one, the fourth one that we haven't seen yet, is called update sign variable. And so again, you notice that it is mapped to the sign 01 address. But in this case, we've got the variable name that we need, the name that you transmitted in the setup sign variables. Of course, you don't change it, because if you transmit the variables, it also needs to know, well, where do you want me to put the values in the variable names? So in this case, we need to know the name and then the value, and then also we need to turn it on. So we need to turn those flag bits on, or you can turn them off if you want. But again, it's just a very flexible block. And then we are writing to the same registers here, you know, LED sign input and output, and then we have the packet sent information. So once we go ahead and toggle and enable this, then at that point you can see that now it's going to update the signs, or the variables in the signs. Okay, so and these are the values that are being calculated in real time. Which we saw over here on down here in our variable names. This was these 4 values here being updated, and these are all string type here. So these are just strings that are being transmitted every 1 second to the sign to give the real-time update in this case. And this is your typical scoreboard. So we have total, we've got rejects, we've got cycle time on there. And of course we can tinker with these values. Let's say, you know, we have a total parts up here. Here's our total parts. Maybe we can go to 999 and hit enter. And well, actually maybe we have to go up here at the top. Sorry about that. Total parts. There should be a place we can write our variables in here somewhere. Let's see. Find it here. Total parts. There's our. Let's try to do it right here. 999. There we go. And once we write a 999 up there, we get the values up there on the screen. Okay? And that doesn't look right. Oh yeah, it is. That's correct. The total parts is actually the good parts plus the reject parts. I was kind of confused there for a second, but that is correct. And then our OEE score, of course, went up because we had a big inrush of good parts. But now if we change this to a big bad part number, our OEE score will go down in this case once it updates to the sign. And yeah, now we got half of our parts are rejects, so our OEE is 50% now. So that's a bad day in production for sure. So we do our good part count back to 2, and our OEE score there is 9998. Of course, if we go back to 0, we should get 100% there on our OE score. So, and 100 point, well, it actually updated as 1 before I could get it updated. But let me go ahead and set that back to 0. And there's our sign. We get 100% OEE, and now we got a 1 bad part in there because we actually have a timer that's every 10 seconds adding a bad part to our count just for dramatic effect only. So that's sort of a quick overview of all of these. We've got reset sign we covered. We had to set the sign variable, send the message, and update the sign variable on that. So that's a real quick application video on how to use those AOI blocks. So the last video that I have will be the expert sign block that we'll talk about separately.